Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now these days I tend to stick to reviewing graphics cards that are still supported, but after pulling this GTX 560 out of an old eBay pre-built and testing it in a small selection of games the other day, I just had to give it the chance to tackle some more titles. The 560 has got 1GB of VRAM, came out in 2011 and game ready driver support ended years ago. This isn't going to be pretty, but here are 10 games that will work, albeit some better than others, on this once mid-range Nvidia offering. I've paired the card with an i5-8400 and 16GB of 2666MHz dual-channel DDR4. First of all, we have Fallout 4, best played at 720p with the medium preset and TAA. Here we saw an average of 62 FPS with a 1% low of 34 and a 0.1% low of 21. There will be some places on the map where we'll see more significant slowdown, but overall I think this is a playable experience. Apex Legends surprised me, even at 720p with the lowest settings, because I wasn't expecting anywhere near 50 FPS as an average. Sometimes this frame rate will hit at least 60. Our 1% low was 33 and our 0.1% low was 27. This is with the lowest settings, including the texture streaming budget, which was basically set to none, hence why everything looks a bit, well, like this. Counter-Strike 2 is also best played at the lowest settings with FSR off, of course, which will turn on by default if you select the low preset. I actually ran this one at 1080p because it ran a little bit smoother on this combination, but that's not to say it was a smooth experience. And although our average was 59, there were a few dips and drops here and there, as represented by those percentile lows. There was a little sort of stutter every time I got killed by another player, and that was quite a lot, so quite a lot of stutters. The Witcher 3 next gen here, albeit running in DX11 mode once again at the lowest settings, this time back to 720p here with FXAA for an average of 35 FPS. There will be some stutter and slowdown once again, but overall this is a better result than what I was anticipating considering the lack of VRAM here. I've got back into Kingdom Come Deliverance recently, with the news of the sequel coming out soon. Surprisingly, despite this being a pretty intensive game at the higher settings, it will run at the lowest settings at 720p just fine on the 1GB GTX 560 from 2011, with an average of 43 frames per second. The percentile lows weren't even that bad at 36 and 26 respectively. The newest game tested today was Baldur's Gate 3, and I wasn't expecting this to work, albeit we did have to use the lowest settings with FSR 1.0 set to performance, so it was a bit of a blurry mess. Nonetheless, we saw 33 FPS. Our percentile figures did of course leave a bit to be desired, but overall, a better result than I thought. Minecraft Java next, this time at 1080p with the fancy settings left at their default options. The average was 293, though we did see the occasional stutter as represented by those pretty bad percentile lows. This was more than playable in my opinion, however. GTA 5 at 1080p with the normal settings and FXAA for an average of 76. Every so often there would be like a micro stutter and the game would stop, which is shown by those percentile lows there, both of which read 2.4. This also happened at 720p. The average was a bit higher and the stutters were a bit more infrequent, but they were still there unfortunately, because we were still exceeding the 1GB VRAM limitation even with the lowest settings at the lowest resolution. It was a similar story with Red Dead Redemption 2, which at 720p with the default low settings we couldn't adjust anything because we were already exceeding the VRAM limitation here. Not that it really mattered because we saw 11 FPS and there was really no improving this. Perhaps if we went into the INI files and dropped things down to 360p maybe, but yeah, it's not going to be pretty or playable. Finally then we have Fortnite 1080p with the performance mode and the lowest settings for a surprising 85 FPS. If you want to play Fortnite and you have a very limited GPU budget, well, you'll be pleased to know this one runs very well in performance mode with these settings on an aging GTX 560. But there we go, 10 games on this old mid-range card. It's fair to say some games will run a lot better than others, and I think there are a few surprises in the mix as well, but let me know what you think. Thanks as always for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.